Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining me here again. Do a little bit of neck and shoulder releasing practice. It's a good day for it. Before we begin, again, I'm trying to spend the time to remind everybody to loosen up their neck and shoulders manually, either using your hands or perhaps a cool device like this. Take the time to soften up any places that you are consistently finding yourself to hang on to for no particular reason. Sometimes it's as easy as spending a little bit of time massaging yourself with your hands, rolling on top of a tennis ball perhaps. And again, I've been hearing complaints about sore feet from people, so taking the time to release your feet as well. Really, the whole body is part of this relaxation project, and any place that is gripping tends to cause the rest of the body to grip. Just in the same way that if I was gripping my fist, you can try that and you'll notice that that tension rises up through your arm into the rest of your body, of course, as well, and with your mind. And so taking the time to soften any particularly problematic area, including your feet, can be wonderfully helpful. This, by the way, is not designed for feet, but it works really well. This is a taiji stick, a bang, and it is designed around teaching your body specialized kinds of movements. Very good for learning to soften your shoulders, because most people will move, for instance, like this, and instead of keeping their shoulders soft, what they will do instead is lift and have a tendency to try to force movement around through here. But if instead I keep this soft, you'll see how quiet it is. No matter how twisty the movements become, my shoulders stay soft. And this is one way to practice cultivating those skills, as well as using it to massage your feet. Can't go wrong. Be the first on your block to own one. Let's pause for just a moment and do a bit of basic standing posture. Always a wonderful way to begin a practice. Take the time to release. Remember that we are releasing our arms along the sides of our body, not because we hold our shoulders there, but because we open the front, we open the back of the shoulder. And when that happens, this is the alignment of the arms, restoring a more neutral, natural position for this area of the body. Soft and free. Just a couple of minutes. If you'd like to stand longer, of course, feel free to pause the lesson and stand as long as you enjoy it, as long as your body continuously opens. You can follow some of my lessons, leading a full half-hour standing posture if you're really enjoying it. Letting go of your whole body. Everything softens, especially, of course, your neck and your shoulders. And then when you're ready, closing. Softening through and down. feeling your neck and shoulders decompress. Since we're now a few weeks into this 100-day series, I'm simply going to assume that most of you are already familiar with this set. If you're finding yourself new here, which is somehow just in the middle of this series, I highly recommend checking for the comment section and for the links that will lead you to an introduction to this set, nice explanation of the movements. There are lots of links there, including, in the very least, a link to the first of this 100-day series. It's better to start at the beginning, of course, than in the middle. And for the rest of us, making some comfortable circles around the navel. Softening your abdomen. For the sake of today's lesson, paying close attention to this line that leads from the center of the chest to the navel through here, allowing this line over the solar plexus to open and soften. Your breath to be free through there. Your awareness sinking inside the body. Your mind growing quiet and clear. So as usual, before I jump into it, seems like a worthwhile thing to introduce the particular line that we are emphasizing opening today. Today we will emphasize the heart sinew channel. The heart line runs from the inside of the little finger, tip of the little finger, flowing up through the palm, up along the inside of the wrist here, the inside of the elbow, up along and through here, where a lot of the sinew channels seem to connect, up near the rib cage up here in the base of the armpit. And then it flows across, again, similar to the pericardium channel, up through here beneath the breast. And there's a kind of connection through to the center of the chest. Ren 17, name of this point here. It again sinks deeply into and relates to the diaphragm, and so there's another relationship with the breath that a lot of these movements relate to. And then it runs, importantly, down here through to the navel. And so there's this lengthening that occurs here, and this is a very common space for people to grip, and so people will sort of collapse here, and you'll see this frozen from here to here. This sort of closes into itself and is stuck there. And this is something we want to learn to make free. And even with the breath, and this is something I show from time to time, let's see how I can show it. People will sometimes breathe with their chest, like that, or they'll breathe maybe just with their lower abdomen if they learn to breathe with their belly. And you can see how this collapses, because this is such a frozen space that it doesn't learn how to expand. And so now this funny party trick that from time to time I'll show, when this line here, this over the solar plexus, here's my navel, this can expand all on its own. Watch it move. Just by itself, it's possible to expand the solar plexus. Now, this isn't a skill you need to learn. This is something that develops as you soften through here. and so that it becomes not a singular breath spot. I don't recommend that necessarily as a cultivation. Just be aware that all of this has the chance to breathe and expand in all directions. Everything can move and open and expand and make space within inside itself, which is how the breath eventually moves through the body, by moving through these empty spaces. And to do that, we have to soften through here. And so this is one of those spaces, part of this heart sinew channel line, that becomes very important to release. And of course, I won't talk about it in too much detail. There's a bit more discussion about it in the fascial massage sequence, the 100-day series that we work with that, and about how to release a lot of the stuck emotions that tend to be in this space that obstruct the breath. But do be aware that simply physically, this line lengthening and opening within the body will help to free that aspect of the breath. This is just another way to work through the body. And so as we move through the form, please be aware of this line in particular. Okay. Let's warm up the back of it. Be aware of the connection of this part of your palm here, relating to the middle finger. Warming up, softening the back. If this feels especially good, you can go through the whole set. Again, that's in that self-massage series. And take the time to soften and warm your back and your tailbone. And then softening one side of the neck and then the other. Feel free to lead with your eyes if you'd like. I find it helpful, enjoyable. Have a sense of awareness of that heart sinew line. We're not simply leaning here, but there's a kind of lengthening and opening through the body without closing the lower back, but do open along this line that is so often collapsed on people or frozen. And then a little left and right, yin and yang. Pouring through one side. Again, I'll exaggerate it just in case you're not remembering what the internal part looks like. That one side sinks down, one side grows light. And then let's go ahead and move into snake softening its sides. It can be helpful to help open with this particular sinew channel. Instead of placing your hands flat against your back, to move them more toward this corner, this part, the line between the sides and the back. If I was shaped like had a rectangular shape, I'd be letting my palms slide along the corner of my boxy body. That helps to soften this line a little bit more. Feel this lengthening through, softening through the middle. If you have difficulty reaching this space in through here that the heart channel moves through, this sometimes can be reached if I simply, instead of moving in a normal fashion, sometimes I can allow myself to extend a little bit further without adding tension to my shoulder, but you'll notice how much higher my hand is going. And when that happens, it really tends to open the space a little bit more, stretches it, lengthens it a little bit more, especially with my hand in this particular position. And that might you might find help you to open into that heart sinew line a little bit more. But don't add strain or pressure to the movement. We're simply finding ways to release all of the lines of available movement possibility in our body. Awareness sinking inside, just for a moment, allowing your mind to slow down and stop. There's no rush. Feels good. Let's soften our hips a little bit. I'll put my hands here just so it's easy to see this full circle we're doing. Both directions. Notice as your tailbone lifts and your belly lengthens, this lengthening again from the center of the chest down to the level of the navel. I'll place my hands here just so you can see how they separate away from each other as this opens. Opening. Back lengthens, which is usually what we focus on in this set. But for this part today, because of this heart sinew line, we let this lengthen open. And then the larger circles. And a similar impact occurs. As we circle around, the line of release here is a bit different. But you do want that moment where all of this is free and open. Both directions. And now, releasing the neck. And again, as you move around and your whole upper body is turning, notice again that movement when the center of your chest here in particular flowers open and lengthens down through your solar plexus to your navel, all the way up to the base of the chin. And then again. Normally our awareness rests more along the length of the spine, or the bottom of the feet, but just for today, to develop this clear awareness of the heart sinew line, please be extra fastidious about opening this line up. Both directions. Remember to maintain that sense of length down through your arms, on the inside of your elbow, to the inside tip of the little finger. allowing your breath to be free, as that's part of that sinew channel as well. Wonderful. Gazing down between your feet. And then again, as we look up and down, emphasize that moment as you soften up all the way from the chin to the center of the chest to the navel, lengthening without closing down in your back. Don't compress your lower back, just open along the front. We don't want to develop bad habits. One more time, lengthening, and then closing. Everything sinks inside, storing in the middle. And so if you find yourself with a lot of contraction, pain, lack of movement through this aspect of your body, then this particular heart sinew line might be something you want to work on. And this is the case with all of the various sinew channels we're focusing on. And so if you find that we do a class and you say, oh my gosh, yeah, this is one of the ones that's really troublesome for me, then repeat this particular lesson a few times, or just as you practice, really emphasize these lines until your body starts to release them open. But remember to release them, not to force them open, because then you just have to deal with a bunch of side effects from using force on your body in a way that it doesn't appreciate. Let's soften our shoulders. As you circle, just as we always do, notice that moment when this particular line here is allowed to lengthen and express itself. In one way of thinking, these sinew lines should always be open, never crimped or closed, contracted, collapsed. They're always allowed to be their full expression. But at the same time, within this circle of movement, the movements themselves circle and release lines sequentially around through the body. And there will be one moment when this particular sinew channel is especially highlighted. You want to be able to feel the whole line interact in that moment. So see if you can, in your own body, find that moment. Or in the very least, always be aware of it being open. Avoid it being folded off, closed, or ignored. It's allowed its full expression of potential. For instance, as we make these circles, especially in this one, you might notice a moment when there's that lengthening from the center of the chest to the navel. Both directions. Lengthening, softening, easy and free. So even here, again, if my armpits close down, which is part of this line here, if I sort of clamp down on that part of my channel, even when I'm in this position, then it closes everything off. So even the middle of my armpit is just a little bit open, a little bit soft and free rather than closed. All the way along through here. Even though I settle, I don't fold. Everything is open, even in a static posture like this. One at a time. We'll go through it until you find that your whole body is open. It's a very different experience. Let's go ahead and soften the neck. All the way around. Comfortable circles. Especially, of course, for today, opening this line from the base of the throat to the chin. And then as you start to include your shoulders, feeling that line from the center of the chest as the center of the chest expands open through the solar plexus to the navel. This is maybe one of the best ones for helping you to open and find the softness of that line. But it's also really wonderful for helping you to experience that even as it is in the other part of the circle and it's closing down, it still doesn't compress or fold. Don't close down on the front, just open along the back. And then as your shoulders roll and your arms are allowed to flare out and express themselves a bit, find a way to lengthen all the way to the tip of the little finger. Smaller and smaller. Let's do a little prep work for black snake twisting around the tree by loosening up our neck. Looking over, down, and behind, and then simply releasing to come back. Noticing the relationship with the breath. As you open and make space, you should allow the breath to flow in and out on its own. And as this line, again, opens and lengthens, are you able to feel that lengthening all the way out through from beneath the shoulders, the bottom of the shoulder, the inside of the elbow, palm, one softened, open line. And then down in front, up behind. Notice the different angle being released through your upper body, through your neck in particular, and your shoulders. How does this change impact this particular sinew channel? Feels good. So I'm going to take my headphones off and run through this series. Make certain that you're emphasizing this line, of course, as we go through them. And please don't overdo it, as usual. Typical warnings. Please be careful. So this is a movement that I'll be adding, which is a bit of a mixture of some of the ones we've been trying. There was one movement we did where we're pushing the head from side to side in the beginning, a kind of free rotation of the neck. And this is very similar, except that as I circle my hand and shoulder over, this way, I'm allowing that to actually turn my head, just in the same way that we were practicing before. But this will add a little bit more of a challenge. This is a very famous practice that is given to people who are releasing a frozen shoulder. Very useful to include here. I wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of extra freedom in our neck before practicing it. And so if you find it especially challenging, don't worry about it. You can just give it an attempt. If you find it easy, then wonderful. Keep it up for the rest of your life, and you probably won't have to deal with a frozen shoulder. Feels pretty good. Closing. Wonderful. A few more preparations. Remember that your shoulder blade sinks down, elbow lifts up. This is a particularly good one for opening this line that we're working on. I'll just keep pointing it out so it's constantly in your memory. And you'll notice that this line here, if I was to lead myself by pulling myself from the little finger, this line opens. Shoulder blade sinks down the back. Wonderful. And then, leading with that little finger up. Remember that one hand settles down, the other hand floats up. Both palms pressing away from each other, shoulders stay soft. Release the lower hand, and then allow that wave of softness to travel down through your body, all the way through. You take your time. Letting go all the way before you start the next one. That's another very important skill to make sure that is just part of your understanding. For this one, a general wave of softness down through the soft tissues of the body. The whole system releases down to the ground. When we do the black snake movement, it's more of a release down through the deep tissues and through the bones. Speaking of which, and again, I'll take my headphones off for this one so that I can grab my ear, and you'll notice a similarity to this practice we were just doing, and a mixture between that and this one for this twist and release of my neck. Let's do some preparation for white snake. Making certain to take note of that moment when this lengthens open, this lengthens all the way to the little finger. Palms are soft, softening through. As you close the front, the chest sinks. Don't collapse the front. Don't let your chin come forward. Both sides. Don't let your arms come behind your body. Definitely don't collapse your lower back. All of this stays open. Shoulder blades sink. Feeling this line open, stretching this open. Breath is easily moving through. Lengthening outward, releasing and freeing all of this, falling outward, and do the same from the hips to the feet. Your whole body is lengthened, opened. Maintaining that length. Make certain that you express that particular line that we're working on. There's a moment where you feel it stretched long. Definitely make space for it in your body. All the way through your palm. Wonderful. Releasing down. And then some white snake. Shoulder blades continuing to release. Your arm is free all the way outward to the fingertips. This quality of throwing tension, just releasing it outward lengthwise through the arm. Outward, outward. And then closing. You take your time. So as you travel around this circle of your shoulders, down to your hands and along the front of your body, Are you finding that moment when this line gets to flower open and express itself? And this line as well. The breath is free in a particular way. Diaphragm is soft. Let's try again this opening movement. Turn your waist, opening and softening along the front of the shoulder. And for the sake of this heart sinew line, remember that we are moving around the ulnar line, around this heart sinew line in part. That's part of that structure. And so as you move, and this comes in, for instance, rotate around this line. When you're coming open, rotate around the same thing, outward, not the thumb line. See if you can find a way to allow your body to move like that. Just a way to practice. Turn your waist. One side then the other. As you release around the circle, turn your waist. Maintain this soft open space through the front. Notice this stays soft the whole time. You don't collapse it. You don't lean back. Just rotate. Let's do the two-handed version here, if you're able to. Feeling the heart sinew line open, open. What does it feel like along that space? Does it feel contracted or asleep? Are you able to feel that stretching through from the length of your arm, even into your torso? Open. Feel the line open. Rotating around that line. Many of the sinew channels relate to and connect to a point here, just along the side of the pectoralis, side of the breast area. There's often a very tender space, a connection point here on the ribs. You can often feel a tight bundle of tissue, this fascia that connects there. This is interrelated with all of these sinew channels, and this channel is no different. It relates to this point. And so as we circulate and circle, Find a moment when that point opens in a wonderful way, lengthening all the way along our preferred channel here. That's one of those places that is often constricted and ignored and closed down upon, and it's vitally important to allow it to remain free, expressive, open. We're not trying to do anything in particular with it. We simply want it to be allowed to move. Let's do some golden snake. Again, let's lengthen outward, freeing up all of these lines in the body, top and bottom. So the whole body is opened outward. And then let's soften inward. Eventually, this becomes a very powerful movement in the body. And this simple opening that we were just practicing. And then this one that we were just practicing. You've been prepared for this whole series. Lengthen open along this line. Tip of the little finger. Keeping your breath free, your mind quiet, and just that little bit of special awareness along this sinew line to make certain that you're not clamping down or ignoring it. Finding one of those special moments around the circle that really highlights that for you. That one line. One instant when it shines with this golden light. Expressing open, heart sinew channel, front of the body. Feel that whole line open, lengthen. Especially if it's one of those that's contracted or painful for you, stiff. One we'll do tomorrow is more commonly stiff and contracted on people. But this is one that, as well, you might have difficulty with. So take your time, especially if it's an important point for you to release. It might take you weeks of doing this particular sequence in order for it to warm and release. You might have to do massage or moxibustion, acupuncture, to get it to let go. And once it does, then suddenly here you open and express, and it's like a whole new quality of movement is freed in your body. First, you have to become aware of it. Closing. Let's do some prep work for turtle drinking qi. Start by softening open along the front line here, releasing the throat. And as you slowly expand down, including your shoulders and your chest, your waist, as usual, for this one, emphasizing that line as it opens from your chest to your navel. Don't skip over it. Really, it's from maybe the tip of your chin down to your pubic bone. I had a lot of heart damage as a kid, so as I started to release this part of my body, I found it intensely uncomfortable, but somehow incredibly liberating, and at some point incredibly pleasurable. It felt like a deep stretch I didn't know that was there. At first, it felt like I was tearing something open because it had been sealed with just layers of fascia and binding and scar tissue. And so as you find this space opening for yourself, please be gentle. Go more slowly than I did. But over time, it will feel this, like there's this brand new space within you that is open, because it is. New space for the breath, more energy flowing through your body, more capacity for movement, because one whole area is inhibited. And once you set it free, suddenly everything else is allowed to express itself more fully as well, because there is no part of the circle that we can ignore. So even a little shadowy line like this that gets ignored very easily, Pay attention. I know there's at least one of you right now going, oh, this is very strange. And for you in particular, I say keep going, because you'll be shocked at how good it feels. So let's do some softening backward. Hips travel back, lengthen through your spine, lead with your hands. Make sure that your hips travel forward, don't stand up using your back or your neck. And then remember to, again, lengthen along the front of the body, especially this aspect of the channel we were working on. And then softening down, lengthening the spine without bending it quite yet. First, we want to make certain that our hips are open, the front of our body is soft. Although today it's probably especially soft after all this work we've been doing. I'll do a couple more. I'll go a bit lower, but of course, only go as low as feels comfortable. And when I say low, what I'm really saying is as far back with your hips. Wonderful. Now let's combine those. At this point in the form, we're only doing 4 or less repetitions, so please be gentle. Rounding open without closing your front, and then expanding open, leading with the top of your body, opening along the front of your body, and then waving down. Then pause for things to settle. If you feel lightheaded, of course, take a break. Everybody's different. Of course, if this is easy for you, you can always do extra. But since I'm not there with you, I tend to lean into the cautious side. Don't lift with your back. Just open along the front, lengthening through your spine. One last time. Very powerful movement. Part of the reason why we save it toward the end here. Finding that line from the tip of the little finger along the palm, releasing all the way along the heart sinew line. And then allow yourself to release any tension. A wave of softness, openness, traveling down. It's as though your body fills with light to the clear blue sky. Anything else just falls freely through you, through the roots under your feet into the ground. Clear as the open sky. Once your body is soft and open, it's as though you dip your hands into the earth. You gather up that earth, and it flows up through your feet. Warmth and vibrancy flowing up through, flooding up your lower back, strengthening your lower back, and filling into that space between the navel and the spine. Your whole lower belly grows warm. You can also do the movement this way if you like. Just another way to lengthen your spine. Falling into this open, comfortable standing posture once again. Make sure your body is aligned appropriately. Everything grows soft. Of course, a tiny bit of extra awareness along this heart sinew line to make sure it's soft and open, released, lengthened. And then allow your awareness to soak into your body, feeling your whole body release at once, especially soaking into the bones, if you're able to feel inside your body. And again, for this particular series, especially into the deep structures of the neck and the shoulders, nourishing those structures with your awareness. Thank you, my friends. You're doing a wonderful job. Keep up the good work. I will see you tomorrow.